Hey, listen, it's Passover, and you know what? Too many Christians don't even pay attention, and that's not right.
The Dan Yorke State of Mind program is brought to you in part by Lookout Rhode Island and Takeo Comfort Solutions.
Here's a funny thing. If I understand this correctly, most of our Jewish members of the community aren't watching this show because they're busy observing Passover, which has begun this evening. But, you know, the rest of us, I bet you there's probably somebody from our Jewish family peeking at the program. Maybe, I don't know, maybe I'm wrong about that. But I have to tell you that I have constantly walked around with a chronic guilt complex over the profundity of the Christian calendar. You know, Christmas certainly dominates, Easter dominates, and, you know, Jewish members of our community, I think, get a little bit of marketing short shrift, and I think it's kind of you know what, there's so much that's related between those who are Jewish, those who are Christian, and I think having a better familiarity about the Jewish calendar is a good thing. So, as you know, if you watch the show regularly, and if you don't, welcome. On Fridays, we record the program the day before and spend most of the program on a single subject matter. And so that's what we're going to do tonight. We're going to talk about Passover and, you know, some things related to the challenges and the successes and the good stuff in the Jewish community. Here's a headline that may make you wonder. Answer? I don't know. We'll ask our guests. But here's kind of a cute story about what this holiday is all about.
It's one of the most exciting days of the year at Bethel Nursery School in New Rochelle, Passover.
It's a really special night.
Passover starts Friday at sundown. Today, students just 2, 3, and 4 years old practiced with a model Seder, or as Aaron would say it,
this is a holiday of freedom, but the Seder is really a time where we tell our stories.
They read from the Haggadah and tell the story of when the Jewish people were enslaved in Egypt, then led to freedom by God and Moses. Educational director Ronnie Becker says the students focused more on using their senses to get a sense of what Passover is all about. They witnessed burning of the breads. Why did you burn the bread?
Because we don't have that on Pesach.
Instead, it's tradition to eat unleavened bread, or matzah. Students prepared the table, cooked. Candles were lit, songs sung. Students munched on parsley to remind them it's spring. They shared wine, well, grape juice, broke the middle matzah, or afikomen, and put it in a special bag to search for later. Then it was time to eat.
You eat hot cereals.
Rosette with apples, raisins, cinnamon, and honey, hard-boiled eggs. What is your favorite thing at the table?
Matzah.
Sweet Aaron offered me some. Shai says his favorite part of Passover,
A matzah game.
I'm gonna find it, I'm gonna find it. Students looked for the coveted afikomen. Eden found it. What's most important at this table?
The people.
Perhaps the most beautiful lesson learned as these sweet students celebrate Passover.
That's cool. Rabbi Sarah Mack is the president of the Board of Rabbis of Greater Rhode Island. Welcome to the broadcast.
Thank you.
Is it appropriate to say Happy Passover?
Absolutely.
Okay, well, Happy Passover to you. And Wendy Joering is the director and member of Concierge Services, Jewish Alliance of Greater Rhode Island, and that's a long title, and that's the last time I'm going to say it. Welcome.
Hi, thank you
Nice
for
to
having
see
me.
you. Did you enjoy that story?
It was adorable.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Talk to me about this day that you are observing on Friday. We'll pretend it's Friday, okay? But you know what, before we do that, do you agree with me on my premise that there's just not enough attention paid to the Jewish religious calendar?
I would say so. I mean, I think Jews are a religious minority in our nation, and as a result, there's less awareness about the Jewish religious calendar.
To bother you?
You know, I think it in varying amounts. I think as kids growing up, our children notice, and we're often asked questions about the major Christian holidays, right, because that's in the public awareness. I think it in varying amounts for adults. I think in terms of logistics and sensitivity towards needs of the community, it can be really challenging. For example, if there's an exam given on Rosh Hashanah or Yom Kippur, that is a real challenge to someone who's an observant Jew. The same for Passover, as well as some of the other holidays.
Christmas, kind of a pain in the neck?
No, I wouldn't say it's a pain in the neck. I think a lot of people have asked me throughout my life, do you have a Christmas tree? And did you grow up with a Christmas tree? And I always say no, we have other traditions that we celebrate. But it is nice when people are educated more on what the Jewish holidays are all about, and why it is nice not to have school or not to have an exam on the high holidays.
Right. Now, I didn't draw a graph, and we didn't build a map, and we didn't put it all out there, but let's talk about the calendar a little bit. So in the season of Christmas, we have Hanukkah. In the season of Easter, we have Passover. New Year's, we have Rosh Hashanah, which is a different, I mean, the concept is the same, correct? And of course, I'm guessing that Good Friday, which is the most solemn day of the Christian calendar, would be the closest thing that Yom Kippur could bring, right? Is that fair, or is that, and believe me, tell me if I'm off.
I don't know if it's comparable, but Yom Kippur is the most solemn day on the...
That's the Day of Atonement. That's when you
really
really get into yourself.
Personal atonement.
Right?
There's another solemn day that usually falls in the summer when Jews mourn the destruction of the temples in Jerusalem, and that's another sort of day of mourning. Yom Kippur is really a day of reflection, of repentance, of sort of internal
a quiet
growth. Day. It's a quiet day. There's fasting, and right. there are other more minor fast days on the calendar.
Do you find, well, I guess this is a question in general, but for the Day of Atonement, I think about Good Friday because I am often challenging Christian viewers, listeners, and just my friends and families from time to time. Not that I'm any kind of holy roller, but Good Friday comes by as if it's another shopping day, or it's a day off from school. And a lot of Christians are just kind of checked out over the idea that this is the big one. I mean, there's no Easter without this. Hello. Is there this? Do you have the same challenges inside the Jewish community in terms of Yom Kippur being that kind of a really important day thing,
Well, I would say Yom Kippur, that you don't see a lot of Yom Kippur sales.
Right?
That's not, we haven't faced that challenge yet. I think, and that's, but...
Are you wanting for that?
No, and for that we're grateful. It's hard to remove the solemnity of the day. I think there's a trajectory to the Jewish calendar that
But is there,
prevents...
in general, maybe I should generalize the question, are you finding in modern 2016 that there is as much connection to the meaning of the Jewish calendar, the Jewish religious calendar, as you would hope to have it? Is it growing? Is it lessening? Is it flat? Does it parallel what we see in the Christian world? Tell me.
I think that even Jewish people who may not frequent synagogue or temple and go throughout the year, if they're going to go, it will be on Yom Kippur and Rosh Hashanah. So somebody who may never walk into a synagogue will walk in 2 days a year, and that's it. I think there might be a decrease in people attending synagogue throughout the year for Friday night services, for Shabbat services, Friday night, Saturday morning. Personally, my family, we participate in synagogue. We don't go every week, but we go semi-regularly and enjoy when we go. But I do have friends, and I know of people that go twice a year. So that might...
Absolutely. And I think it's been noted that 70% of Jews will find themselves at a Passover Seder of some kind. So there is a significant observance of both the high holidays, Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, and the Passover Seder. I mean, what we do see is that Hanukkah is really inflated more than its actual religious significance within the Jewish calendar. So, Hanukkah is not a particularly significant Jewish holiday.
Festival of Lights.
It's a festival of lights. It's a minor holiday in the scheme of the trajectory of the Jewish year. So that's something that maybe answers your question.
From a religious point of view, but
from
a commercial point of view, it's a Christmas competitor,
Absolutely.
though, isn't it?
Absolutely. And I think because of Christmas, the presents have increased, and
things getting out of hand a little bit?
I try to keep it tame.
In general, though, I'm just talking about
in general, I think some people do go crazy and really splurge on things they might not otherwise.
Compensation for cultural Christmas pressure, or just inertia?
I think it is. I mean, based on when it falls during the year, you know, you have things like Mensch on a Bench that competes with Elf on a Shelf. You know, I mean,
Right.
this happens when we live. You know, we live in America, and you know, it's commercialized, and more so, I would say, than other holidays on the Jewish calendar.
The original question that I haven't gotten to because the conversation's so fun. Why so late this year?
Why so late?
Yeah.
We say they're always early or late and never on time. So the Jewish calendar follows a lunar calendar. But that doesn't answer why so late. That's only part of it. Roughly every 3 years, the Jewish calendar adds a leap month, an entire extra month. And that is so that with the lunar calendar, if we didn't add that month, the holidays would circulate throughout the year. And many of the holidays are harvest festivals that fall within their season. And so this happens to be a leap year. And we had 2 months, the Hebrew month of Adar. We had Adar 1 and Adar 2, and that knocks everything a full month later than it would be normally. And then it creeps back until the next time we add a leap month.
Did you get all that?
Yes. And I have her number, so if I forget anything, I can give her a call.
All right, when we come back, we'll talk about what it all means. Stay with us.
This green vegetable before us, what does it mean?
Stu, there's no point in even doing the Seder if you're not going to try.
I'm reading exactly what the book says. This bitter herb that we eat.
Bitter herb? Stu, don't you mean herb?
I always thought it was herb.
No, it's definitely herb.
Are you sure?
Stu, it's not important. Keep reading.
This bitter, you know, indeed, a lot of people do say herb. This matzah we eat, what is its meaning?
Listen, my producer pulled that. I'm thinking, ooh, is that okay to run? But Lexi, you know, is Jewish. She said it's okay. So I said, okay. I don't know. You know, is that all right? Is that okay when we're discussing Passover? Is that making too much fun? What is that? Do you have a sense of humor about that?
I think we do.
Good.
Yeah,
All right.
absolutely.
All right, good. You're safe. No, seriously, you know, you want to make sure, you know, that you're just doing the right thing and saying the right things. Listen, I'm not treating you guys as if you're foreign citizens. It's just sometimes when you get into the nitty-gritty of the culture of religious celebration, I think it's respectful to be careful in terms of, you know, what it is that you joke about, what you don't joke about. Passover is a meaningful holiday because it really is, well, you remember the movie? Let me see if I can help you with this. This is the movie.
I do not know your God, nor will I let Israel go.
Who are you to make their lives bitter in hard bondage? Man shall be ruled by law, not by the will of other men.
I had another question that I was going to ask. I'm going to ask it second, so I just checked myself. You just watched me stop myself. Do you like the movie?
It's an old favorite.
It's an old favorite.
How can you not like the movie?
Story true?
Well, that's a bigger question.
That's why I stopped myself. Why?
I mean, the story in the movie or
Why is it a
the
bigger
Exodus
question?
story?
Yeah.
I guess is my question back.
Yes.
Because question with a question.
You know what? You get a smart rabbi, you ask a question, you get a question back. It'll be a question contest here. Let me just say this. I'm not exactly sure. It just dawned on me when we watched that clip where I'm supposed to think about epic history as a story to be told as opposed to literal history as something that actually happened. And there's a lot of debate within the Christian community, the Catholic community itself as well, about Old Testament truth versus Old Testament meaning, right? So let me ask you this: did Exodus happen? Did this movement of the Jewish people across the river happen?
So we don't necessarily know. I mean, there archaeologically, there's evidence. There's little evidence to tell us. I'll tell you, for me, it doesn't matter if it happened. I believe that this is a beautiful, sacred story of the birth of a nation. It's the Israelites becoming the Jewish people. And that narrative is essential to who we are as Jews, and it's essential to teach it to our children. So whether it happened or didn't happen is actually of very little concern to me. And you'll find archaeology and historians and who'll take you both places. But in terms of observance at the Seder table and its significance to the Jewish people, I'm not sure it matters whether it happened or not.
You have your kids here offset. What do you explain to them about what Passover means?
Well, between our family and Temple, They've learned that was the Jews escaped from Egypt and escaped slavery. And we have this beautiful Seder dinner to tell the story of Passover and why we are proud of our freedom. And it's about birth and renewal and the celebration of how we're free today.
Celebrated in two parts? Yes.
Well, it's celebrated twice.
Okay.
There are two nights of the Seder, and the Seder's the same program both nights. We go through the same book called the Haggadah, and it leads us through the same narrative 2 nights in a row.
And the Seder is defined as the meal, correct?
Seder actually means order.
Okay.
So the Haggadah tells the order of how the Jews freed themselves, or how they were freed from Egypt, and we go through the Haggadah throughout the evening. And some people, I said this morning, some people it takes an hour, and some people it takes 4 hours. You know, it really is.
The Haggadah is what specifically?
Haggadah is an actual book that tells the story, and you read it, and it can be interactive.
Absolutely.
With your family?
It should be interactive. It should involve the children. It should be something that everyone can understand. And so, you know, if it means that I've been at Seders where they read the Rugrats Passover as the story so that the littlest at the table can understand that it is as if you came out of Egypt.
That's not disrespectful. That's just
not.
a way.
It's a way of teaching. It should be taught to the children in a way that they understand. It's not entirely about children, but it's very much about sharing the story with the next generation.
Does the family look forward to this part of the celebration and the story being told again?
We really do, our family. I have 17 people coming up from New York this weekend, and it's very meaningful for us to all be together. There are traditions that have been brought down from generations on what we do specifically at this holiday, and it's important for me as a Jewish woman to show my daughters what I did growing up, and for them to be able to continue the tradition.
Is it more religious tradition or cultural family tradition that makes it special?
I think it's both.
Yeah?
Absolutely.
You do things in your family that maybe you don't do to celebrate?
I'm 100% sure they're two completely different
Absolutely.
Seders, and they should. The beauty of the Seder is it's home-based. It's around the home table with the customs of a particular family, and Jewish families come from all over the world. So an Ashkenazic, an Eastern European descent family from that part of the world, that Seder is going to look different than Sephardic Seder, a family with a more Mediterranean descent. And that's true of so many Seder customs, and I think because the point is to teach the story. We sing a lot of silly songs at my Seder, and we have a lot of kids under 10, so that's how we share the message, and I think every Seder has its own traditions, and I think they're both religious and cultural.
Always on weekends?
No.
No. It can happen. So
Because
what
of
happened?
the lunar calendar.
Right, okay. Same like Christmas. But do you move the celebration, at least culturally, for the family? In other words, like my family, if there's Christmas is on Wednesday, it'll be Saturday, we'll get together. And it's just, or do you stay rigidly into the calendar?
We stay rigid. The holiday does last for 8 days, so I know of families that if they can't get together on the first or second night, they will have a celebratory meal, like a Seder meal throughout that week. But it really is to be
In general,
first 2 evenings.
It's celebrated the first 2 evenings. If it's a Monday, Tuesday, if it's a weeknight, which, and you asked before about confluence with work and school and the rest of the secular world. That does get hard. You know, 2 late nights out with school the next day is definitely hard on kids and parents as well. So.
All right. When we come back, I don't know if you noticed, the rabbi's a woman. We'll talk about it. Stay with us.
A few hundred years is quiet enough, and through it all we didn't give up our faith and tradition. You can't stop our mission. We're ready to be moving on to the land of milk and honey. We're not gonna look back.
So I guess it's a Justin Bieber Passover parody, meaning he's making fun of it?
No, the Maccabees.
No, he's celebrating. Oh, gotcha. Yes, the Maccabees. I get it. It's been a long week. We're going to have show and tell. How many female rabbis do we have around here?
In the Rhode Island area, there are about 4 or 5 of us. We're getting one more. We've had female rabbis have been around for a while.
Right. Not. I mean, obviously, Catholics. It's kind of like a thing. But any special challenges that go along?
I think there are the challenges that go along with women in every profession, you know, and especially in any kind of public profession. So the pulls of family and family life and work life, and you know, I think all of that translates to the rabbinate just as it does to a physician or a lawyer or a...
How large is the rabbinate here in the area? Yeah, I mean, how many synagogues and rabbis do we have?
I would say there are about 20 or so rabbis on my board of rabbis, on the board of rabbis list,
Right.
but within congregations there are about 8 to 10.
Okay. What's the business of the leadership of the community like these days? Before we get into some of this play stuff in a second, I just is there any specific challenges that you face in the community? New ones, old ones?
I think we face the challenges of liberal religion across America today. Affiliation rates are definitely lower. My generation and younger generations are reluctant to connect to organizations and to organized religion. So I think there is that.
That's a
that
common
challenge.
Common across.
I feel like that's
religious
common.
lines.
Yeah.
You think it'll come back?
I would think it will. The pendulum always swings. Will it come back in my lifetime? I'm not sure about that, but I think it will.
You work hard to keep young people involved.
We do.
Yeah.
I work when we do it.
Have to, right?
We do, absolutely.
Are they as connected to the other thing that I find in the Christian and Catholic community? The term is unchurched. There's a lot of kids are just completely unchurched. They don't even know why they're there, and it's, I think, frustrating. You find that sometimes?
Absolutely. No,
Yeah.
it's hard, and you know, there are a lot of different. Kids are very busy. Families are off to games and drama, and you know, kids have something every day of the week to sort of fit in. Hebrew school
there's a lot
is
of
a challenge.
commonality
Absolutely.
across the board. These are the stories, correct? So this is what you'd be reading.
This is the Haggadah. This is just one of hundreds, probably, of versions of Haggadahs.
Okay.
And this is great for us because it is kid-friendly but interesting for the adults. And it's in a doable amount of time. Some are much longer.
What did you make? That smells incredible.
So I did not make that. My mother.
Your mother made
this morning.
Can I show this?
Yes, it's called mandelbread, and or mandelbrat is the real, I believe, word, but we call it mandelbread in our house. And we can't use leavening agents during Passover. So this is made with matzah meal, which is matzah, which is the unleavened bread. I don't think it's better for you.
Probably worse,
Really?
actually.
But
cholesterol.
More fat would be my guess in the absence of.
Right. Got it.
And
okay.
it's like a biscotti. It's a dry cookie, and it's excellent with coffee or tea. And I think they're delicious.
What is the message of Passover? We only have a minute. What do you think? What do you want people to know? What do you want to say?
We were enslaved in Egypt, and from that we bring compassion for those enslaved around the world. So it is our responsibility to recall that experience around this Seder table and go forth to work to make the world a better place, keeping that in mind.
And your thought? Final
Praying
thought?
for freedom for everyone, and for rebirth and renewal and springtime and really freedom.
I hope you enjoyed your holiday, or your holidays. Tomorrow, meaning now. It's good visit. Thanks.
Yeah,
Appreciate it.
Thank
Happy
you.
Passover. Final word when we get back. Big week next week, politically. Stay with us. So, of course, Hillary Clinton is in town tomorrow, and by the time we produce this program, we may not have learned who else is coming into town, but it's going to be kind of a primary weekend, no doubt. Don't forget, Tuesday is your voting day, and precincts are going to be different, so you better check with the Secretary of State's website, because where you usually vote probably isn't where you're going to be voting on Tuesday, all right? We will dig into the primary after the primary with Professor Marone from Brown. Reportedly, there's some lethargy out there. Really? We'll talk about that Monday when we reconvene. Have a great weekend. Thanks for watching.